Following its boom in 2021, the idea of NFTs being this revolutionary piece of tech has completely changed as of today. While many in the world claim that this is a clear bubble burst, the ones who still believe in the technology, including us, have been trying to understand the loopholes to be corrected in order to bring back the glory of digital assets. And in our search, we landed upon a product that is potentially going to change the future of NFTs as we know them. Today, we are in conversation with Deepanshu Tripathi and Abhinav Kumar, the founders of AssetMantle, a product that offers a unique alternative to NFT marketplaces and also provides solutions for you to build your own no-code NFT marketplace. Now, while it sits at a market cap of more than $2.7 million, what exactly makes AssetMantle unique? Well, it revolves around the idea of an Inter-NFT protocol, which we have come to believe is a sleeping giant ready to take over the NFTs of the future. Having previously worked together on a project called Comdex, which was focused around solving infrastructure problems for a niche group of elite trader families in East Asia using the blockchain, Abhinav and Deepanshu were the part of the first ever team recognized to make an inter-chain NFT transaction back in 2019. In this podcast, we also speak about a lot of pressing questions that the newcomers in the Web3 world are dying to get answered. Some of the more technical topics being decentralized identity and its loopholes, what is zero-knowledge proof, what are the alternatives to traditional digital wallets, why current NFTs are not true to their proposed idea, are Web3 companies actually Web2, is using Amazon Web Service and IPFS for storing data instead of the blockchain the right thing to do for Web3 products, and much more. We also touched on some of the more broader topics like what are the things to keep in mind while building a Web3 startup? What's the best location to live in to start a Web3 project? Does the concept of the Metaverse have any merit? And more. All in all, this podcast is one power-packed dose of conversation that we believe will promote a lot of us to change the way we think about the future of blockchain technology. So make sure to stick till the end with this one to get the most out of it. You can also click on the timestamps below to navigate to topics you find interesting. And without any further ado, let's start the podcast.
Guys, welcome. Pleasure to have you on.
Hey, thanks for having us, and definitely very excited to discuss the journey so far with AssetMantle.
Let me just start with, a lot of our audience today are students, people trying to explore Web3, both NFT enthusiasts and also crypto and DeFi enthusiasts. मैं आपसे ये पूछना चाह रहा हूँ, I want to ask you guys, being young, both of you have obviously been working on different projects across DeFi, Web3 and beyond, having background in finance and non-finance also. Can you just give us a brief overview key? How did AssetMantle begin? What is AssetMantle and how did you guys meet? So a small journey of how you guys started this.
Yeah, absolutely. For me and Abhinav was back in 2018. We were both exploring like the Web3 space. We were both exploring and looking at like main motto at that particular point of time was real world problems, because I was from a fintech background. I was looking at how the reconciliation between differenters in this fintech layer cake is causing delays, because of which it will never scale up to give very fast like settlement times for transactions when they go borderless, right? So within a region country, they are fast, but when you allow it to open it up globally, you make it borderless, it's insanely slow and difficult. Swift kind of used to take like a week to settle in worst case scenarios, right? My particular perspective was that, Abhinav.
Yeah, so I also started my journey of blockchain and Web3 back in 2018. That year, I only graduated from my college, IIT Bombay, and I was sitting in the placements. So I thought for me, I didn't want to go for a corporate and I wanted to go for a startup and learn new technology. The blockchain was an emerging one, and at that time, NFT wasn't even trending that much at that time. So I started with Deepanshu, my journey of the blockchain and Web3, which was basically commodity trading, real world tokenization of trading assets over ships and across the ocean. So that was my journey, and I started learning on my work only about the blockchain, the Web3, everything, explored Ethereum, then come to Cosmos. Yeah.
So tell me more about like what is AssetMantle exactly? Like you do, what does AssetMantle do basically, and how is it different?
So there are a couple and bunch of NFT marketplaces, right? And majority of them are built on Ethereum. At Ethereum level, the Ether token itself, like where does it exist? At what layer does it exist? It does not exist at the smart contract level. It's not a ERC20 token. Ether is the native token, right? And if you got to utilize it at the smart contract level, you've got to wrap it, right? And make it ERC20 token, right? So which implies that there is existence of two kinds of token, a native token and a smart contract token. The thing is that if you would have noticed, transferring Ether is much cheaper gas-wise than transferring an ERC20 token. You would have noticed that when you're like paying gas fees, etc. The reason for that is VM, the virtualization layer that is sitting in between, that is running the contracts, is that makes it a little bit more gas-wise intensive task to run transactions, right? But what if you remove that layer, and let's say if you were like able to deploy more tokens at the native level rather than at the smart contract level, your gas will be hyper optimized. The number of transactions, etc., per block will go exponentially up, right? Similarly, just imagine a journey where like the NFTs that are present at the smart contract level are present at the like native level. The storage will become like much cheaper. The transactions will become much faster. The gas cost will go much lower. And basically, that's what we are doing. We are like creating this protocol, this standard called the Inter-NFT protocol, which does not only standardizes the interface like ERC20 and ERC720 does, but also standardizes the metadata and implements all of this at the native chain code level. So, and the consensus engine that we utilize as Ethereum recently shifted to POS, right? And like Tendermint core consensus engine, it's super fast, super efficient, is very high. The stack that we're using is that Cosmos stack, the Cosmos plus the Tendermint core plus the IBC interconnectivity, because of which we are also enabled by default to be able to send our NFTs without using centralized bridges to other chains, right? So that's basically what AssetMantle is. It's a layer 1 blockchain which natively implements NFTs. The standard for this NFT is Inter-NFT. And it's a by default interoperable like NFT. You can send it over to other chains and have it interoperate with applications from other chains. The NFT is represented as DID, Decentralized Identifiers. That is an up and upcoming standard, W3C standard, that basically tells that for any object can be self-generated and can be resolved to like persistent layers across the interconnected Web3 world. So yeah, that's about AssetMantle.
So just to recap, so basically what you're saying is Ethereum is also a layer 1 blockchain, but then when you deploy your dApps or smart contracts or anything, it becomes layer 2, right?
Right.
And with AssetMantle, it is completely different. So when you're deploying, it's getting deployed on layer 1 itself.
Exactly. There is no smart contract, and it's a multi-tenant like NFT marketplace. What multi-tenant means is multiple people can come and utilize the chain to deploy their own like marketplaces, not only at the front end level, but at the chain level itself. They can define their schema, define like capabilities of their NFT, define their own DEX and what will be the metadata and the capabilities of the make-take orders in the DEX, and have this whole like mini ecosystem generated inside the blockchain itself, just like a smart contract, but without like utilizing like deploying smart contracts. You just send transactions, you just send 2 transactions and you're done. You're set up. It's very like low on gas to like send this transaction. And at the same time, there's no code requirement. Like you can utilize a very simple and plain front end, and you can define all of these capabilities and define your and get ready with your NFT marketplace in just 2-3 transactions.
Wow, it's really good. So for an artist like me who does not understand coding much, what would be in simple terms, what would you tell him? Why would he use AssetMantle over, let's say, OpenSea or other NFT marketplaces in general? And how would that help him or her?
So at AssetMantle, we have been like very highly focused in this like version that we're releasing. Although the like full extent of what can be done with Inter-NFT NFTs is like extending towards more technical use cases as well. For example, we built Comdex, which was high-seas commodity trading, tokenizing OBLs and enabling escrow and complex business flows for these OBLs. And that was back in 2018. Like in 2017, September was first time the term NFT was like minted, and like we have been like building on NFTs literally since then. So, but in this current version that we're releasing, we are super focused on the artists. So our particular core belief an artist should be only concerned about what they are good at, and they should not have to like jump through hoops to be able to set up like their marketplace. We want to give the control of distribution and revenue collection back to the artist without having jumped through the extra hoops, right? Right now, it's like almost impossible for a person who is, let's say, sitting at home and creating like music to get it distributed and like get revenue from it being played at, let's say, some bars or restaurants, etc. It's almost impossible for them to. With YouTube coming into picture, with Spotify coming into picture, that process has become simpler, but not the simplest, right? Similarly with open, like stuff like OpenSea coming up, it's simpler, right? But not the simplest. Why? Because you still got to worry about like complex things, like what's the gas requirement, how much storage am I utilizing, like where is my IPFS deployment, where is my like persistent storage deployment, right? How do smart contract, how much gas does it take, right? How to optimize that particular smart contract. How does my, if I wanted to like build a secondary market for it, take it out of OpenSea, how do I do that? Who will build my front end for it, right? But what we believe is an artist should not be concerned with any of this, right? So our core focus is that an artist, and that is our target. I would not say that we have hit it yet, because from the blockchain side, we're sorted, but from the front end side, we're still like trying to give more customizations to create the storefront. But technically, the journey is you come to a simple front end, and the front end it's deployed at marketplace.assetmantle.1. We believe in Web 2 plus 3, as John Dorsey says, Web 5. So like we utilize something called inter-identity. You create your username-based identity, and then you link your address along with it, and you can link multiple addresses per device. You can link one address. This address is utilized to authenticate you. And your wallet is linked to the identity and not the address. So if you lose an address, seed for an address, you still retain the ownership of the identity. And at the same time, all of these, if you wanted to, you can manage it yourself. You can manage the seed yourself. You can utilize like extensions like Kepler and MetaMask to manage the seed for you. You can utilize Ledger, or the simplest way that we recommend and we are trying to push is let us manage it, but not in a way that we have full control of your seeds and keys, right? I've worked in fintech and compliance, and like the mechanisms by which you can store tokenized card, a credit card, and do like cardless payment. Whilst you store all the information, you only like do not store the, let's say, the CVV number of the card, right? That remains a secret to you. So similar flow, we do not store the full seed, and we encrypt the private key and with your password, and every time you log in, you are decrypting your key at a backend and are able to send transactions, and you just have to remember your username and password. The rest, all transactions, signing, queuing, gas, all of that is like taken care by us at the backend. So that's one big problem solved. You don't have to worry about seeds. Second big problem solved, you don't have to worry about like deploying your smart contract. You just have to send two transactions. First transaction is you define how your NFT will look like. What properties would it have? What capabilities would it have? Will it be fractional? Will it be burnable? Like, would it be like lockable? Could you lock it to a wallet? You define all of these, and you create a set of at max 22 properties. Would the properties be mutable, immutable, etc. Right? You define the schema, and then you define the like order. If you're creating your own DEX for this NFT, you define what would be the percentage of the exchange value that would be sent back to the artist as revenue. What would be the properties associated with each order? So for example, you are doing physical like NFT trade, like there is like a physical aspect, a physical object linked with it. Now to do that through the blockchain itself, if you wanted to do it, you would have to somehow record and prove that an address, a delivery address was given and that object was delivered, right? So in the order itself, in the text itself, you can attach that one extra field with each order, which is the delivery address, etc. Right? So you define your order, you define your DEX through one transaction again. And from the blockchain end, you're sorted. You're done. Like you have your marketplace ready. From the front end, we give a default front end. We ask for a few details and properties, and your front end is set up. The future of it will look something like Shopify, where you can pick from a template, drag drop the backgrounds, etc. And like if you're picking all default, like again within 5 minutes you should be ready with like your fully customized front end. So whenever you are gonna like point someone to buy an NFT from you, you're not gonna point them to OpenSea and say this is my collection. You are gonna point them to a custom domain which will be branded with your own like branding, and which will only primarily sell your NFTs. And then after someone has bought your NFTs from your marketplace, then they can go to our secondary marketplace and like list them however they like. People can hold multiple NFTs inside one wallet and all of that jazz, right? So technically within 15, you should be good to go, right? And gas price is very low right now. Transaction speeds are like very quick on our chain. So like technically within a span of 10 minutes, you're able to mint 30,000 NFTs. But you should not do that. Like, we have to prevent that spam. So we implemented a mechanism to like bond certain amount of tokens with the NFT so that like no one can spam it. And when you burn an NFT, for example, you have created a collection or created an NFT that no one is buying. So we incentivize you to garbage collect it, to burn that NFT and collect back the bonded amount of tokens. So the marketplace remains clean. It's not like there are a lot of hanging NFTs that no one is buying. They're just chilling there and like destroying the state of the chain. So the state is optimized, the storage is optimized, and all of it is on chain. So yeah, that's the kind of like way it would like kind of become easier for the creator to go from zilch to having a marketplace in 15 minutes.
Also to add on,
that's amazing.
As you said, like you'd be worried about the ownership of your NFT itself, the house, this thing. As Deepanshu mentioned, all the NFTs are DIDs. So if you create an NFT on AssetMantle's, the blockchain at the protocol level itself, so no other artist, no other anyone false person impersonating you can use the same metadata to create your own NFT. It can never be replicated. So as an artist creator, you are by default safe and secure that, okay, nobody can copy me, even if they like maybe copies the image, but they can't exactly copy the whole metadata and create the exact same NFT. So that's actually has been set at the protocol level itself.
Right. The reason I asked that question was we have seen before AssetMantle all the things that are available to us in terms of marketplaces facing issues like people have recreated NFT projects itself just the same copy on different chains, basically forks of those NFT projects, if I may say. And there have been scams when we talk about security and stuff like that. I would actually want to dive into a question which, while you guys were talking and while I was trying to understand this, I was just telling myself that this is just something that would have taken them a lot of time to think of this infrastructure and how they are actually going to make it functionable for people and dumb it down for the people and the audience who want to approach Web3 in the most secure and fastest way. So how much time did you guys take to create this, figure out this whole system, and what were your biggest challenges during that whole process?
Oh, it has been a very long journey. Although AssetMantle as a project, we came out with a brand entity 2020, like beginning of this year, 2022. But we have kind of been working with this idea, NFTs, as I mentioned, since 2018. First implementation, full implementation on Cosmos, we did, I guess, August of 2018. Yeah. So August of 2018, we did. And at that particular point of time, let me explain you what the chain was for and what we were trying to solve. It was for Comdex, commodity distributed exchange. So basically, like high seas commodity traders, like you load up these kinds of commodities in these shipping containers and put them on a ship. And it is kind of a standard interface. Like after it is loaded up on the ship, you are very aware of what's inside and wherever you are in the world, it's a standard. It's fixed that this is how it will behave like. So a lot of trading happened in that particular time period. So there are very huge entities that do these trades, but there are smaller ones as well. So there were we call it small, but they're still trading in billions and dealing in $1 billion worth of trades every month. So there was a family of there was a consortium of 6 families in Southeast Asia, out of Singapore, Dubai, Hong Kong, that were trading with each other. They were not as big as Kargits and Bungis. and which would have like MIS, a management information system, where they record and log the like order sent, ship, what is the tracking the dates, what was the offers made, how many times it was like it rotated hand. They were utilizing very simplistic and rudimentary mechanism of communication and trading these trades, negotiating this trade. That was very trust dependent. So if I know the other person on the other end, I just text them, hey, I've got this many terms of XYZ headed your way. Do you want to buy it? Right? And that would happen over like Yahoo Messenger or an email, right? And they will respond back in that Yahoo Messenger email. And since it was trust-based, you do not need like any more complex mechanism to like record this conversation except for this. And secondarily, like since it's done on like an I know you and I will trade it to you kind of scenario, do not need visibility or trade discovery of this trade coming your way, right? You do not need the whole market to know, okay, this is coming your way. So that was the state of things at that particular level. And the problem statement that we faced was that, yes, it is based on trust, and 90% of the time, nothing bad happens, nothing goes wrong. But sometimes it does. And at that particular point of time, since it's high seas, there is no jurisdiction there, applicable jurisdiction there. If this dispute has to be settled in an international court, what you need very solid and legal proofs about what conspired and what was done when. So you need a management information system that will store and log this particular information. But the problem that was, if you're doing it within an organization, like let's say a Cargill was doing it, it's within the organization, so they maintain the database and they don't mess with it. But what about like 6 independent families that are doing it with each other? If one of them does keep the storage with themselves, they can then manipulate it as well. And there is no way that you'll be able to like tell if it was manipulated or not, the database was manipulated or not. That was a trust problem. So first problem was that, the trust problem, the legal problem. The second problem was, of course, the UX. Now these guys are used to like chatting, right? And these guys are used to like very Web2 flows. Not even Web2, I would say like 0.5 levels below that, right? Right? So, and the problem statement that we were given was not only to design an MIS, which in itself was a big task for these people that they will be able to utilize very well, but also to integrate like a persistent layer that is immutable, that is trustlessly maintained and cannot be messed with, blockchain, and Web3, and integrated inside this MIS in such a way that they do not get to know, that they do not have to carry around a ledger or manage seeds. And if they lose their passwords, they're able to recover it. So the problem statement was insanely big, and we did multiple iterations. Like our first iteration of the blockchain was done in like August, but we then spent 8 months reiterating and figuring out what flows work well. And ultimately, like without big surprise, turns out that the best way to do it is we created something called a trade room, which is basically a chat room where you just chat like Yahoo Messenger, and like whatever you put in, it just gets executed as a transaction. So we have messed with this problem. We have seen what people do or do not like doing and do not like doing. And these are traders that deal in like $1 billion trades, and it's not you who are right, it's them always right? So you have to design something that they enjoy and like, right? You cannot change the user behavior. So that's how we got to like learn this. And our application at that particular point of time was one of the only like applications, front-end based application that was utilizing blockchain at that particular point of time. In fact, our team, I guess, got recognized as the first team in the world in 2019 to do an interchain NFT transfer. And an NFT, the term was like minted in 2017. So that was where we built our capability, not from the backend like a protocol perspective, but from a front end and UX perspective. Later on, we figured out, hey, we can do it in such a way that it is not just fixed to this particular use case, OBL use case. We can do it, generalize it, and do it for any kind of asset tokenization escrow exchange, right? And that's how that's when we open sourced it and we started working on this standard, the Inter-NFT standard. We got a grant for ICF, Interchain Foundation, which created IBC, to like work on this, create a work group, work on this, and create a standard for Cosmos on through which NFTs could be minted. So we worked on it for 7 months from 2020 November to March 2021. I guess that's not 7 months. I guess like plus minus. The memory is a little shaky at that particular point of time. Created this Insane protocol, got to work with like brilliant minds, got to work with people who are working on DIDs that opened up our brains about what is the potential of DIDs. As Abhinay was explaining, that DIDs globally, irrespective of who is generating it, DIDs are something, an identifier that is not generated by central authority, that you can self-generate based on certain particular properties, what that implies is your Aadhaar number is the number that is randomly generated by DI and attached to your information. But if the central authority that generated and attached it did not remember what it attached what to, then that identity is useless. But if I created an identity based on certain immutable aspects of you, where you were born, who your parents are, what is the date of birth, that never change. Maybe your name changes, maybe your address changes. If I take these, hash them up, create an identifier, it remains a constant, right? Unless there is a person who was born at the exact place, exact time, with the exact parents. So that's not possible, right? So like you never have a clash when you create a DID, irrespective of where you're creating it, what chain you're creating it. Since you're self-generating, it's not the chain generating, it's not like a central authority generating it. You can never have a clash between two like DIDs, and that's the OG part. But yeah, moving on from that.
So, a small doubt in that. Sorry to cut you off. So I understood what DIDs are, but say for example, I know Mirza, right? And if he's generating DIDs on the basis of his parents' name or his name or where he stays, these informations I can somehow get it, right? So are these DIDs generated based on information that is not available to the public, or is it something else?
No, you can generate this information like the identifier based on information that is available to the public. You can like dig up Mirza and figure out where he lived and like who his parents were, what time he was born, and anyone can generate that identifier. But they are just generating the identifier. They're not generating the ID card itself, right? So when they generate that identifier, they're basically figuring out what to call Mirza on the internet. They're not figuring out that this is the identified ID card that I hold in my pocket, right? So like anyone can generate it. The controller for this identifier, the controller for this ID is any person who like says that they are the controller. But you have to have what we call a verifiable storage of information for DIDs to work, in this case blockchain, where you come and you register yourself, hey, I'm the person, I'm the controller for this. And if it's and you control it through certain authentication mechanisms, like you have the address linked with it that you utilize to like proof control over this particular identifier. Anyone can generate it, but generation part will only lead to the reference, the ID, not the control of the identifier.
How can you explain it once more? Like, how do you prove that I am the controller of the DID or something?
Whenever you generate the DID, right? Like there are two kinds of DIDs that you can generate. One is called self-sovereign. Self-sovereign is that you issue it to yourself, and then like you become the controller of it. You say, hey, this is the identifier, this is the document, this is the set of information, and I'm attaching a authentication mechanism. Authentication could be a list of different mechanisms. One of this could be a cryptographic address. You sign something with that address, and then you say, I control it, right? But this is a self-sovereign one. You have issued it to yourself. So what that implies is ki, you have, although you've issued it to yourself, there's no authority or central entity that is saying that this is a correct one. So for example, you can go to a college and generate a DID saying that this is my college degree, and you can issue it to yourself and control it, but it would not hold any value unless your college comes and attests it. It adds a verifiable claim to it. We call it VCs, verifiable claim. So if you add,
stamps it.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Stamps it. You can generate it. You can name it. You can, before passing a college, generate the degree. but only when you pass it will the college come and stamp it, and that will give authenticity to it. So that is self-issued, self-sovereign identities. Now there are issued identities. So your government can come and issue you an identity and make you the controller of it. And after it has done so, after it has issued and made you the controller, even the government or the issuing entity cannot mess with it, because you are the only person that controls the authentication mechanism. They cannot come and modify and change the identifier after that particular point of time. Anyone with the information can come generate that identifier, but only you will control it. So those are the two mechanisms through which you control DID documents.
So this aspect of anyone coming and able to generate the DIDs, the identifier, basically adds on a physical verifiability. Now anyone can come and verify, okay, this is your identifier, because they can also generate the same thing. You are claiming this is you. They know your set of public properties, where you born, where the parents were, they know, and they can verify it. Okay, this is your ID card. They can verify it. So that's also adds aspects to it.
Got it.
How did you carry on AssetMantle from there, and that idea of building AssetMantle, and sort of a few things that you applied along the journey of finally figuring out AssetMantle as a product?
The protocol, the blockchain aspect, the NFT. So it was a little bit of bottom-up approach to product building, then a top-down approach when we were building the initial protocol and the chain itself. Right. So it was, instead of for example, if you went while there were no cars, while everyone was riding around in horses, and asked, what do you want to the end customer, they would say, I want a faster horse, right? No one would tell you, I want a car. Car will sound too complex, right? So the person who came up with the car did it bottom up, came up with the idea, developed it, and then validated in the market, changed user behavior, taught people that is how you utilize the car, although it was super complex to utilize. And a lot of people will reject it, saying, hey, it's not my cup of tea, like a lot of people are saying about Web3 right now, right? Too much fiction. So that's what we did while we were building the chain itself. NFTs were not even a thing when we started thinking about and imagining a reconciliation fee world where all the assets are represented only one in a standard metadata format and interface format. Then we realized it's called NFTs. Then we built it out. We built the protocol out. And then the NFT boom happened. And the use case for NFT was kind of handed to us. Before that, a use case was up to us. Comdex was a use case that we tried to solve with NFT. No one tries to do that. No, even things that NFTs can be utilized for that particular use case as well. There are much more complex use cases like API tokenization, access to digital access to your, let's say, vehicle or your house through NFTs, etc. That no one is even looking into. The thing that NFTs are still about only about the art and the creatives and collectibles, and not about the utility attached. Not only off chain, on chain as well. So that was the approach with the blockchain. Without taking input, we built it, and then we went out to validate. Of course, when we tried to validate it, it failed in 2020. When we actually went out with the POC, everyone was not interested. No one was interested in NFTs. No one even knew what NFTs were. Now the markets have changed a lot. In 2021, the boom happened, and it was all about art. Throughout that boom, and still today do not own any of those NFTs, because when I looked at those NFTs, I was like, hey, this is not what NFTs are supposed to be, right? The whole metadata is off chain. It's just the link that you are putting in there, which is very Web2 link, and it is not even permanent, right? 500 years down the line, if your great grandchildren inherit your NFT, they're gonna find, oh, damn, the person who was doing the Web2 hosting forgot to pay his AWS bill, and now the NFT is useless, right? The same can be said about your Bitcoin, right? If you have a Bitcoin wallet and then inherit 500 years down the line, 1,000 years down the line, they still get the same Bitcoin. It's not going to be like, oh shit, someone's shut down the Bitcoin server, right?
What do you think about IPFS? Because many of those NFTs also are hosted on IPFS, right?
Yeah. So IPFS is like a distributed way of storing stuff. But if you stop paying the bill for IPFS, the same way if you stop paying the bill for AWS, it ends up in the sales result, dangling NFTs. Yeah, right. I would say AWS is actually better than IPFS because it takes care of, it's much faster. And what does IPFS offers you? Like crash fault tolerance, right? No one can censorship resistance is also there, which AWS does not give. But if you're just looking at crash fault tolerant, I think the cloud implementation that AWS has is much more crash fault tolerance, disaster tolerant than IPFS, right? So IPFS gives you a veneer of decentralization, but not the full flavor of it. The full flavor is the permanence that comes with Web3, right?
So your data needs to be stored somewhere, right? So when it comes to the kind of decentralization, the complete decentralization that you're talking about, where will that data be stored even permanently?
On chain. So if your metadata is not on chain, then your NFT is not your NFT kind of scenario, right? So you might say, hey, storage is very expensive. That's super expensive on Ethereum, but not on the chain that I'm building, not on the, let's say, Filecoin, or let's say ARweave or Arcana network that is building on Cosmos right now, that is bringing a storage on chain. So everything is stored on chain and it is permanently stored. You cannot mess with it from there onwards, right? And I'm not saying that you must store 3 gigabyte large images on top of there. Maybe that is something that will never be feasible, even 5 years down the line, where actual storage, public storage on blockchain becomes a thing. But you must store at least the basics, the basic metadata about the NFT on chain. For example, you went on and said that this particular trait of the NFT is limited and only X number of people will have it, right? But you promised that, but you put that off chain in IPFS, and then you later on went and modified it. Anyone can come and modify it, right? So you can break the contract very easily, and no one will get to know, right? That's not what Web3 is about, right? That's what I keep on telling people, that a lot of people come up and tell me about what problem they want to solve with Web3, which I tell that Web3 is not just one technology, it's a combination and culmination of 5-6 technologies that come together and create this one different way of doing stuff, this one different idea that is not applicable to everything. So for example, digital signing, right? A lot of people say voting should be on blockchain, but I say if you can implement digital signing, that's it. You don't need a blockchain for that, right? Why do you need to store the blocks and make it public? If a signature is verifiable, that's done, right? Crash fault tolerance. You can do crash fault tolerance with you can do torrent. We have been using torrent for such a long time, right? Distributed storage. So individual components can solve individual problem, but overall problem that needs to be solved is, and it might get a little too meta, but I think the humans are humans and they are OG. I would think, or we would think, that humans are OG creatures of this earth because they have this one capability, which is knowledge transfer. Initially orally, then written, now digitally, and our ability to remember, right, information is what differentiates us from the rest of the creatures, right? If I had a newborn baby and I put that baby inside a forest, will that baby be as advanced and thinking whiles as capable as us? No. The information that is given to that baby is what makes that baby a human, right? A full-fledged human. Ability to remember. So blockchain is an evolution of our ability to remember, right? So that's what the main use case of blockchain is. And if that memory part is messed with, is being done with NFTs right now, that the memory is not there, NFT is the main memory is outside, you're just buying the receipt of the non-ephemeral. So that's what I say. The main use case of blockchain is a memory aspect.
I would actually like to dive into one question here. We sort of, when you were speaking about this, you mentioned Web3 companies, which on paper, the way they function and the backend is actually Web2. A lot of companies that we feel that are these big established Web3, the whole way they function, their ecosystem is way different than what the companies we see in today's day and age. But that's not the case. We have seen this happen with NFT. We have seen this happen with NFT NFT marketplaces, we have seen Web3 not being truly decentralized, right? And you might have heard this, and a lot of people are actually working on making a truly decentralized web, while Web3 as it exists today exists. What do you think about this? Do you think that people have sort of matured out of going through the hype of Web3 and then realizing that, oh no, this is not or not all glam. This is not all the future. Somewhere we do need Web2. Somewhere we do need a centralized authority. What do you guys have to say about this?
It takes a quantum leap of understanding to be able to figure out systems that are Web3. For example, we just discussed DIDs, right? Simple concepts, the implementation wise easy, but the concept itself to wrap your head around, for me to wrap my head around it, it took me like fully wrap my head around it. It took me 4 months of working with the person that was like responsible for like maintaining the use case of Web3 DIDs in W3C. Having like every week being able to listen to him, I was able to absorb, and then my whole understanding formed. Like similarly with NFT, similarly with Web3 and blockchain. So the concept here is that like if a problem exists, there are two ways to patch it, right? One way is say, hey, like it's too difficult. We are not able to figure out the decentralized aspect, so we are going to patch it with Web2 for now, right? In fact, Web2 started off as a patch, a very big patch. You have your information and it's private to you, but actually, you know what, I can read it, and actually, you know what, I can reset your data, and actually, you know what, I can utilize your data to do whatever I want. A huge patch. Right. Till now, data theft was something that we were not concerned of as a normal human being, because we were like, hey, we will just become a point in statistics somewhere. It's not like they are specifically looking at what Ali and Mirza are doing day in, day out, right? The ROI on that is like not that huge. But if you think about the new emerging technology like AI coming into picture, which can train on your data throughout your life and are able to replicate how you look like and talk like and sign your signature like, and what will be the next sentence that it will come out of you in a chat, right? When that comes, you would be scared. And when that comes, you would be like, hey, I do not want my data to be stolen anymore. It's not funny, right? Yeah. So Web3 is unimitable. Like you do not want your data out there. You do not want your data to be remembered by a corporation that is trying to make money off of you, right? You will become just a plain old vegetable of a product, right? Just there to consume and not there to do anything else, right? So the concept about Web3 is, so let's track the history. Web 1, static data served to you that you can't do anything with. Server serves, you look, done. Web 2, static data served to you, that you can interact and send back, and it is persistent, right? Now the concept is that there is no central server. You take the information, you process it at your end, and you communicate the result to everyone else. And that's it. That's the end of it, right? You do not need a central entity to like re-corroborate your information through cryptography, through the mechanism that we just discussed. So imagine that instead of you having to send a request to your bank that please transfer this X to me, you say that, hey, I know this is my like balance, and hey, this is your balance, and I'm going to subtract this here, add that there, and this is the proof that I did it correctly. And you communicate it to everyone else from your phone, right? From your device. Everyone else. So that is Web3. That you like every application is being processed on a system, and you're only submitting proofs to the rest of the world that what you've done is correct. So the true my particular 2 cents on this is the true expression of Web3 is going to come through zero knowledge proofs, ZKP. Because right now, even till now, Web3 is not Web3 because a blockchain, a central entity, is sitting and like analyzing if the transaction that you did was correct or not, and then persisting it, right? But in future, what's going to happen is that the blockchain will never process the application at all. You process the application at your system, and you just send the proof, and the proof does not even expose what calculation did you do. It just tells if you did the calculation correctly or not, and that's it. So that's I think the future of Web3. And it's gonna come. It's gonna happen slowly, but then suddenly a lot of mathematics is required. A lot of like protocol setting is required. We're not there yet. We're getting there, but it is uninevitable. It is required in many ways.
Yeah.
So just to add in, so by ZK zero knowledge proofs, you can you explain that part in detail? Because I think our audience might wanna explore more on that. Plus, if I just add something on that, are ZK proofs something like I don't reveal my entire identity, but just the part to show that okay, this is Ali, and not the entire backstory of okay, these are all of my transactions, this is what I've done, and all of those things. Is it that?
Right. Yes. I mean, you're right there. So I will give you an example to like explain this in a better fashion. Right now, your like wallet on a blockchain is public, and anyone that you send your address to, hey, please send me money here, can just put it inside like Explorer and can see your whole transaction history, who you communicated with, how much money you have, how many transactions you sent, right? It is all public and we accept it. Yeah, fine. It's not important, right? But like, what if you did not want to do it that way? What if you wanted to do it the bank way, that you do not want to expose your like bank balance or the transaction you did, but at the same time have someone do a transaction to you? So there are two ways. The central way, that there is a third-party secret keeper that can read your information, that can read other guys' information, that does not tell anyone else, does the calculation, and you trust that they will do the calculation properly. The
something
other way,
something like bank, right?
Something like a bank, a central authority that you trust that does it, that is bound, that is like lawfully like bound not to like mess with it, although it is being messed with left, right, center, everywhere else in the world, right? It's insane how they're doing it. Like US dollar, if you take a loan, they just mint it inside the computer, right? So, but like, what if you wanted to do it on blockchain or a public ledger without exposing? So what you'll have to do is, let's say your balance and the other person's balance was encrypted, and I had to add like, let's say, 2 encrypted number without decrypting them, right? And the output was also an encrypted number, because as soon as I decrypt it, it becomes public, right? So if I can implement one magical mathematics where I take one encrypted information, take another encrypted information, apply a function on top of it, answer without decrypting, and I get an answer which is fully encrypted as well, right? And you do not know what the answer is, but I give you a mechanism to verify if the operation was done correctly. So if I added 2 plus 3 and it gave me like 5, when I decrypt it, I will be able to tell, yeah, it is correct. But if it is fully encrypted and you're able to tell that the answer, which is fully encrypted, is actually the addition between these 2 encrypted numbers, then that's basically like a zero knowledge proof that you are like giving out you're telling what you're doing, but you're not telling what you're doing it on. And there is a way to verify that you are doing it correctly without there being a central authority there. So there is a third way to do it, also trusted execution environment, TEEs, which are coming about, where you design a chip that says that you cannot mess with me, and if you give me an operation, I will always do it correctly. You don't have to know, like no one has to know what the inputs and outputs are. So zero knowledge proofs, what they allow for is, like, this is a very simple example of addition. Now I add multiplication, subtraction, I add the whole like calculus, I add the whole like full programming language inside it, right? So what's going to happen is I put 2 encrypted inputs inside that program, and it gives me the output fully encrypted. And your only job is to, and you are also able to, from the output, verify if the program executed correctly or not, right? That it did not mess up, it was worked on correctly. So that's basically ZK proofs. And what that means is that the blockchain or the entity that is persisting these proofs will never have to calculate, will never have to add the numbers. You can add the numbers at your local, at your system, and just send the proof, and the proofs are easy to verify. So the transaction speed increases up, and you only store the proofs. You never store the actual calculation or input. You only store that the calculation happened and the calculation was correct. You verify the calculation. So what that does is it infinitely scales up like the rate at which you can do transactions. At the same time, conserves, like absolutely preserves privacy. So imagine like Zcash, Monero, but done not at a Zcash, Monero do add and subtract only, right? But what if you can apply any function on top of any number of parameters? Basically, you can make a programming language like fully zero knowledge, as general purpose zero knowledge, which Polygon did, which was insane. Like it was kind of like a like axe in your own foot, because you do not need a L2 after GK, because you do not need to process anything on the chain. You just need to submit and verify proofs. So by default, the whole chain becomes like exponentially more faster, and you do not need L2s at all in that scenario. But yeah, that's basically in short what ZK is. Or that's my understanding.
Pretty in depth, and for the people who are listening to us, especially जो लोग अभी थोड़ी सी coding knowledge उनको backend knowledge है, हम ये बोल सकते हैं कि we can say that this is an ever evolving and one of the most exponentially fast evolving fields in terms of technology and understanding the true use case of the blockchain. Coming back to you guys, I have one thing that we have to transition to, we have to talk about, that is making a Web3 startup, right? You guys have done it, you guys have seen through it, and especially in India, let's talk about our demographic, like making this in a desi country, right? India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, you know, in this subcontinent. What should be the key points that someone has to keep in mind before making a Web3 startup? And what are the things that go into making it? Can you sort of relate it with your journey and sort of give some tips to people who sort of want to build an ecosystem around a product that they feel that is going to provide value to people?
Absolutely. So like we are transitioning from a mindset of like closed source and a closely maintained code basis to open source code basis. Till this particular point of time as well, it is looked down upon if a startup is utilizing someone else's code and is forking someone else's code and working on them. Unless you did not define your code yourself, you are not considered worthy per se. But that's not true for like open source, right? Or Web3, that's not true at all. Like it's 100% allowable to fork, improve, utilize someone else. It is 100% legal and should not be looked down upon at all. So, but at the same time, like Indians especially have been brought up in a way that they are very documentation oriented. They are very like, give me a manual, give me the problem and how to solve it, and I will solve it. If a person is going to learn programming, they're first gonna read like let's say they're gonna work on Java, they're gonna read a 1500 page on Java first, a book on Java first. They're gonna go through like 40 hours of Udemy courses on Java, and that is when they will touch their first like line of code on Java, right? But the unfortunate reality is in Web3 is that every tool that you want, every code that you want, every like problem that you want to solve is already solved and available. The problem is that there is no documentation for it. You have to dive into the code and understand it yourself. So unless you do not have that like will and the capability and the passion to just dive into someone else's solution and see how they've done it and like reutilize it yourself, and not depend on like not ask for documentation and like 15,000 hours of video support and stack of like a bustling Stack Overflow community. If you do not want and you're still able to like figure it out just looking at the code, then you are like a great fit for Web3. You might and you must ask this question, that there are such big organizations, right, like Google and Microsoft and Facebook and IBM that have infinite resources at the disposal, but never have been able to do anything great with with Web3 at all. What's the reason behind that? What's the logic behind that? The reason is that when the requirement comes from top, hey, we're going to create a new blockchain or Web3 application, and it's given down to the end engineer. The engineer asks the manager, hey, where's the documentation? Where can I learn more about it? how do I find out the next like solution for it, right? And that's where the chain breaks, because without passion, without the ability to like go out and hunt for information on your own, that you will never do in a corporate, right? Because it's not your job to do that. You are corporates are built in a certain fashion that like feeds you information. You just have to execute. You don't have to hunt for the information, right? That's why corporate. And if you're able to do it, that's good for you. That's how Web3 works.
Wow.
Secondarily, there is no shame in copying code, not copying, forking code, utilizing someone else's solution. You have to keep your eyes and ears open. The space evolves at a light speed. If you're not fast enough, agile enough, by the time you are done implementing your like protocol or app, it is already like 3 months outdated, because full application takes years to develop end to end, right? That's why when the NFT boom happened, all the NFT that came out of it and are still coming out of it are kind of like technically useless, because you're not able to implement something that fast. When the boom happens, you have to be on the market then and there, right? You want to sell your $1 million NFT, you better do it in a chain that is ready right now, and not have to wait for a protocol or a implementation to come like 3 years later, which is like A-okay in all directions, right? So
Web3 mostly you can say is community driven. You have to keep on looking at other projects, other protocols, keep on going through them, learn from them, and put into your own experience, and then building on its own what you learn from others. You have to keep on looking at other chains, other protocols. Like, okay, these people are doing this. We can learn from this and implement. And then overall, in the whole community grows, because then you add later on, add on something over the top of the things that you have learned, and then they see you what you are doing, and so that's why the ecosystem is whole created. That's what you call ecosystem, right? Everyone is learning from each other and looking on each other protocol.
So in this, I would just say one thing. So even when you explore new things, and this is something that I've realized after a very long time, when people come and ask me, Ali, tell me some actionable points, what should I do tomorrow? Tell me, okay, say for example, I want to get a Web3 job, or I want to become a Solidity developer. Tell me actionable points that I should start from tomorrow. So what would you tell to those kind of people who, are like, give me those points, I'll do that, and I'll be done with it?
It's quite easy, actually. It's not as complex as actually job hunting Web2. So the easiest way to do it is head over to the GitHub repository of the project that or the project or the Web3 startup or entity that you want to be a part of. In that,
give your example. Say AssetMantle. Let's.
You come over to a repository. You go through our GitHub project. Specifically modules, there would be a few issues raised, things to be fixed, right? You pick up, you try to understand the code, and you implement a solution, you raise the PR. If the PR is merged, is as good as me saying that, welcome to AssetMantle's. And it's that easy, right? You want to gain a job in Ethereum Foundation, you solve a few issues on Ethereum, right? You want to get a job in Cosmos, you head over to the Cosmos Hub SDK, Cosmos SDK, and you solve a few issues there. It's as easy as that. Proof of work, right? Your GitHub never lies. And secondarily, one thing that I personally never knew about was I was in college in 2012 to 16, and at that particular point of time, there was a lot I did not know about, right? But as a nerd, I always felt that I was never able to do well on social media ever. Instagram, a lot of people will do well. Twitter, a lot of people will do well. Right? Make a name for themselves, right? For nerds, I think for us nerds, it's GitHub, because you can go through 15 jobs in your life and corporate jobs and never have anything on your name to show for at the end of those 15 years. But you're working for Web3 for 15 years. You have a 15 years of GitHub social media built up, and you are a rock star. When you show your GitHub to someone else, they're like, oh, damn, that man has got like capability, right?
Yeah.
So
Right.
build a GitHub up and like solve issues on GitHub. Like you don't need anything else. You just need a laptop and you need like basic knowledge of Git, and you're good to go to get a job. Now to build something is a little bit more complex and easy at the same time. So Web3 is not like Web2, where like fundraising works the way fundraising works for Web3. In Web2, you give equity out and hope that 5 years, 10 years down the line, you IPO and go public and people will buy your shares, right? In Web3, it happens diametrically opposite. You first make your company's equity public and make people buy it, and then actually build the product fully, right?
Yeah.
So it's a very quick way to bootstrap and like get liquidity in to build it, but at the same time, it's kind of broken as well, because if you've already sold your equity, if you've already been acquired, then what's the point for you to work as well, right? So it's a tricky like the economies with Web3 has not been fully solved, and that's why. Like I'm not glad when I say that, but like 99.9% at this particular point, and every year says like stay in Web3, that number of nines keep on increasing in that. 99.99% of the projects right now are just like absolute scams that are just like one or two ideas that are. And why they're able to bubble up, because Web3 is such an accepting space with respect to you being able to raise money and do something with it, that anything floats. You come tomorrow and say, hey, NFTs, but that can, let's say, change, or they can be split, or NFTs that can, like in real world, give you a beer every week you stake it, right? anything flows, and any people will like throw money at that idea also, because Web3 has made a lot of investors a lot of money. So when you have got those millions lying around, you don't care, like you throw in a here and there, right? So we're sitting at the we are sitting at the bubble, right? So it was like the internet stock prices, internet company share prices like blew up into the 2000s, right? Same thing we are seeing at with respect to Web3. It will settle down, but it's quite easy to actually like build something here. You just come up with an idea, write the white paper, hit up a few VCs, and you're golden.
Wow, that's perfectly put. Actually, for a lot of people who actually came into Web3 because of the money, right? Like a lot of NFT artists, a lot of people who are generally good with code, so good, but didn't find enough opportunities in Web2, which is a plus point in Web3, is that you get to collaborate overseas, stuff like that, a bigger pool of people, bigger pool of skill sets that you can access. And we saw it do a lot of good in, let's say, NFT gaming during lockdown that helped the Philippines and stuff like that. But the other side to it is also the flip side of the coin, is that big money is because they started with big money. A lot of these companies do start with big money if they have to make anything right now. Something that I wanted to deep dive when we talk about money and Web3 is the love-hate relationships that the centralized authorities have, especially with Web3 startups, right? What's the most friendly place to start a Web3 project, like in terms of like everything?
And why?
The superpower that cryptocurrency, some part of Web3 gives you, is to be able to hire team across the world without you having to worry about contracts and the capability to be able to send money. You can do the work, get the like money part sorted so easily through like payments in crypto. So technically you can be based out of anywhere, and your team can be based out of anywhere, and you would be able to run your chain, and you do not even need teammates. You can even have contributors that are just contributing to the project and getting a kickback or grant from it. So it's as easy as that at the organizational level. The concept of organization as a like entity that holds a secret together is gone. Now it's an open secret, and anyone can come and contribute and like get a kickback from it. But if you were asking from a regulatory perspective, India is pretty scary because although it's legalized, but the regulators might change their mind anytime they like, right? And if you're building a business for like the next 10, 15 years, you do not want that kind of regulatory uncertainty to be there, right? So ideally, like earlier, and the regulatory, the best place, the answer for it has changed over a period of time. Earlier it used to be Singapore for sure, but after Russia like getting hard on top of crypto, the Singapore saying we are not cool with the sanctioned countries still being able to operate, said hey like Web3 bye bye, right? Dubai is like ready there, ready out there with open arms, saying ki, I don't care about how you make your money or who gives you your money, as long as like you are not creating trouble for us, we are fine with it. So right now, the projects that I've worked with, the projects that I have seen grow, as a project that I have as seen as my aims and goal level of project, the project that I have personally funded, the projects that I have seen getting funding, the projects that are getting funding, haven't gotten funding. All of them have backed up their bags and fully moved to Dubai, irrespective of what stage you are at of building. Everyone is in Dubai right now in Web3. Very few people are sticking around here, and the reason for that is definitely the tech wise, we are Indians are gifted, right? Yeah. Sitting in Bangalore, I go out to random coffee shops and I overhear conversations about Web3 and what's the next big idea, which what's what, right? Which I will never in any other country or city will get. So that's why I like the serendipity that India gives. And of course, we all know that the CEOs and CTOs of all the big tech giants are Indian. So we've got something sorted out in our head with respect to tech. Right? So,
do you think sorry to cut you. Do you think specific to India, Bangalore is turning out to be the Silicon Valley? I mean, it is in many ways, obviously already, but now more than ever, you're seeing a lot of traction within India, I would say, towards Bangalore. And is that the right place to be in terms of growing your startup, especially in Web3 for founders?
Absolutely. Bangalore is the absolute place to be. So, fun fact, I started off in Hyderabad. Comdex started off in Hyderabad. But then, had to pull everyone to Bangalore. Matic, Polygon started off in Mumbai, but they had to pull everyone to Bangalore, right? And there's a reason for that. So, Bangalore is kind of it's placed in a Goldilocks zone in multiple ways. How so? I'll tell. So it used to be a very heavily militarized place. A lot of military and bases were there, and because of that, there were rules put that you cannot build buildings beyond a certain height. So no skyline, no skyscrapers here, right? And to reflect that, the roads were also not built with enough capacity. So this city comes with its own lock with respect to how many people can live inside and how many people can be inside, right? It's not like an infinite, ever increasing, ever higher growing set of buildings that are there. So since there are no that kind of high end building, the rates stay low, and it's amicable for the younger populace, the young generation to come here and be able to make it here, not worried if you're in Mumbai, you are thinking about rent all the time, and you're 90% of the salary goes to the rent, right? So that's not there. And secondly, I realized this when I was coming out of college, that all of my friends, all of my batchmates, all of the similarly age people that I knew through family, everyone just comes and collates here. So there is a lot of young energy that just is concentrated at this one particular place, and it's a collaboration of ideas, and it's a collaboration of very talented and enthusiastic people that are looking up to see what's the next big thing that can be built out, right? So I won't say it's a Silicon Valley, because in Silicon Valley, I guess you at least need to make $1 million to be able to survive and live, pay the rents. It's not true here. It's quite the opposite. But with respect to this kind of stuff that is coming out, definitely the smartest people are living here. Any startup that makes it in Bangalore, for example, Swiggy or Uber or like Yulu that makes it in Bangalore, because the smartest people are figuring out ways to break it, right? Break that system. Like when Uber came to India, it got hacked in so many ways. This free rides hack. When Flipkart, Amazon came, like all the hacks with respect to shipping and all, and return policies and all. While that got tested out, like it's Bangalore is the best like ground to like test your thesis out in a like controlled and like intense environment as well. So I think that's why it's the best place to like be at with respect to the young crowd, the people, the like validation aspect. It's all in there.
Wow, really, we actually, me and Ali, we just came from a Solana event. They had their hacker house there. So,
but you guys missed the most important point, which was the weather. Like when we went there, everyone was talking about the weather, right?
Right. Dubai, definitely, no one's happy with the weather. Singapore, no one's happy with the weather. Bangalore, I'm always happy with the weather. We skipped summer this time totally. There was no summer at all. Yeah, for some reason. Like it's crazy.
The only downside I feel of the Bangalore is the traffic. I mean, like you're right when you said the locked in amount of people. I felt that because it seems everybody has their own car, and it's right in a way because of the infrastructures of the road, the way the roads are made, especially. It forces you to have like a smaller community, and essentially people who come with families or who have a lot of travel, a lot of work, they opt sort of not to stay in a place where it takes them a lot of time. So eventually that ends up in having just a creme de la creme of people who are enthusiastic to build in the space. Moving on to one other question I had was your views on the idea of the metaverse. How much do you think that this idea of the metaverse that we have seen in movies and stuff, Ready Player One, is actually going to be manifested into a real product or a service and integrated as a whole different web in itself?
So there are multiple ways to tackle this particular answer to the question, like what is metaverse and why is it important. I will start off with a story. So the reason why Vitalik got into like building Ethereum. So he used to be big I think World of Warcraft player. He was too good at it, and he had built a lot of like reputation for himself, XP points, and like a lot of items for himself. And but the server admin that he was playing at thought that, hey, like I don't think that this guy is doing it fair and square. He's cheating. So they decided to delete and ban his account, and all the thousands upon thousands of hours of effort that he built in trying to earn those digital objects were just like lost in one go. So because of that, he started to think this thing came that in my real world I owned XYZ, right? No one can come and take my belonging away, right? That's not possible for them to do so unless they steal it, right? No one can come and say that, hey, tomorrow I'm going to delete all the cars, Maruti Suzuki cars in the world, and you can't do anything about it, right? So why is it true about asset ownership on on the digital space, right? It should mean something. Like if it's a real world and the digital space is a part of the real world, the ownership aspect should be as well respected as it is respected in the real world also, right? So I think metaverse is just like a digital universe where the rights, the ownership is much more well defined. Like you own something, you transact in something, you work for something, and the rights that you have are much more well defined. So that's one aspect to look at metaverse, redefining digital asset ownership. That's our like a motto as well at AssetMantle, redefining digital asset ownership, change what it means to own something digitally, right? Rights associated with it. The other way to look at it is what I call the Web2 to Web3 jump, but at the UX level, right? So, yeah. So like Web1, static website, right? Web2 with little bit of interaction, but it's still rendered inside a two-dimensional, like a square window, right? If I wanted to right-click and print a website, I can, right? Like it sounds dumb, but you can. Because it's a two-dimensional object that is getting rendered. So that's Web2, right? But like just going by the naming, adding one more dimension to it, that your website, when it renders, it does not render in a 2D page, it renders in a 3D space, right? So that's Metaverse, right? Like a Web3, it's in three-dimensional UX, right? So like instead of visiting website in 2D paper, you visiting it in a 3D universe now, right? Right. So the other way to look at it, the other perspective to look at it is that we are increasingly like spending time inside the digital world and less time in the real world. Today I was at the chai shop and I was having chai, and I was pointing out that earlier, like there were people who were looking inside their phones, but now it's shocking that the person who is making the chai is making the chai looking at the phone. The person who is drinking the chai is looking at the phone. The person who is inside a cab is looking at the phone. Everyone outside is just like wired in, and it's not even weird for me at this particular point of time, right? But the interface is not that cool. That interface to like operate, it just like as I say, like evolving was to get a spine erect, and now we are de-evolving to like get our spine like bent forward again, right? So reverse evolution. So if you were to think about it, like mobile phones are an extension of our like vocal cord, right? If you think about it, the cars and motorcycles are extension of our limbs. Like internet, the computer is an extension of our brain, but the interface to all of this is still not intuitive. That's not like well combining. Like Metaverse is just an attempt to like make the interface like much more intuitive. Rather than you having to touch a two-dimensional space, you are literally in your own default this thing. Default mode of interaction
setting. Yeah, right. So you're in your default environment. Yeah.
So our generation was the one that started from no web to Web 2, having to have learned all the nuances of how to utilize a web app and what does it mean to like utilize password and what UX means what, where is the profile settings and all that. We learned all of that, but it was like a learning process. And if a very old person or a very young person you showed it, they are not immediately intuitively able to adapt to it. But what if I built it in such a way that it was just intuitive, right? The way we interact with the real world and our brain is built to understand the real world. What if I make the interface like that there is no training time required at all. So that's like Web3, that even if an alien came and tried to interact with it, they could, right? Extra contextual information required.
Especially with videos that go around. Like, I don't know if you guys have seen the video of a guy wearing his VR headset and taking a bath in a bathtub while he's in the Metaverse. But yeah.
No, I just wanted to add on to the interface point that you said. I feel that every generation, we had a lesser friction with how we interact with the digital devices. So before it was maybe you had to press buttons in order to interact with your devices. After that, it became touch phones. Now there are even brain sensors that you can use to just think about something, and the drones will fly and all of those things. So I feel it will just get better, and then we will have those haptic feedbacks and all of those things just to have a better sense or better this thing without any friction with the digital devices. So yeah.
Better cyborgs, we're just becoming slowly cyborgs. That's all.
That's the best way to beat robots. I had heard it somewhere. So
become them. Can't beat them, become them.
Well, guys, on that note, that's a very nice note. We have discussed a variety of topics and also got your insights on the future of what things can look like. Would like to end with a question. In general, what do you find the future of crypto, of Web3 in general? How do you see it panning out in the coming 5 years?
In many ways, it's quite obvious that the current fiat system that has been built out, there are a lot of very dumb shit that has been done inside it that we are just asked to accept. You can mint a number, right? When you give out a loan, you can just mint it inside your computer, right? This is a concept of inflation, wealth redistribution, where wealth is constantly redistributed to the richer. So the current fiat economic system is broken. And if you looked at our past, all the fiat currencies that have existed before this, and there are thousands upon thousands, you can fill up a dictionary with it. All of them are dead, right? Fiat systems are no fiat system survives beyond 80, 90-year time span. And when USA decided that the US dollar is not going to be pegged all of a sudden to the gold, everything was, and since every currency was pegged, since it was a reserve currency and every currency was pegged to US dollar, all of a sudden we got all the currency in the world got detached and they started floating and became a fiat currency. That's why we are seeing one after the other countries are falling, right? Economies of countries are rapidly collapsing, right? And even the big ones, I'm talking about Great Britain right now, right? Russia, China. I'm not even talking about Sri Lanka, Maldives. So that decision that was taken in the 1970s is playing itself out, and that system is collapsing. And the alternate is just algorithmically bound and algorithmically proven cryptocurrency. And in the next 5 years, I think the future looks like this: that earlier, let's say, you utilize Amazon, right, to buy stuff, and when you do add to cart, that's a very complex piece of operation that happens there, because it's the most utilized operation there in that application, and it has to be highly available. And if it fails, it literally leads to millions of billions of dollars of loss for that particular organization. So Amazon had to figure out a truly new database for it called Cassandra DB to figure out that add to cart. Right? Yes. It's a very complex piece of highly available engineering that they've implemented. But do you, as a customer, consumer, client, care about it? When you click add to cart, does Amazon come up and be like, we are the best protocol and we implemented the best DB in the world and it can do XTPS and it is the next thing, and here is a Cassandra DB coin that you should buy? No, it does not come out and tell you that. You click it, it works, that's it. So in the next 5 years, Web3 is going to be at the back end of a lot of stuff, and multiple chains will be working towards servicing and creating the persistence layer for the application that they will be utilizing. And the average person will never have to know which chain or what gas do they have to pay, what is the OG USP of this particular chain, and how is it different from XYZ 15 million other chains out there. So it's going to become, so there's a curve that goes like this. Any new technology, when it comes, earlier people say it's useless, no one is going to utilize it, like Bitcoin, when it happened to Bitcoin. It's fake money, it's a nerd money. Then they say, oh, it's the future, it's the savior, it's the best thing in the world. Everyone should buy it. It reaches a peak, and then people are again when it starts falling, when they understand that it's not that useful. Oh, again, it's useless. It's going to dump. It's useless. No one is going to utilize it. Dump it all, and then it bottoms out, and then it rises. The curve rises up again and settle down somewhere around the actual usefulness of the technology, right? We're right now sitting at the huge bump up, and now there's going to be crash, and then it's going to rise up and it's going to settle down to the actual level of usability use case of that particular application. And it's going to be somewhere in between the high and the low. So in the next 5 years, I see this technology settling down at that actual baseline level of where it should be at with respect to usefulness.
even beyond 5 years, I think the Web3 and the blockchain, the whole ecosystem thing, still will be flourishing. If you see like how old is internet, around like maybe 40 years or something, and how old is the blockchain, 14 years or 15 years or something. So if you see what the first internet boom came in around I think late 90s, and then internet crash marketing happened, but still for the technology still exponentially grown. So in the next 20 to 25 years, what my belief is, the blockchain technology itself will grow and the massive adoption will come in more. Last year, huge adoption came in. Lots of people came into NFTs, DeFi, blockchain. We started buying cryptos. We started seeing buy crypto ads during IPO seasons. And that option was coming on. But still, the huge, massive adoption has to go on the grassroots levels. Still, the people who have access to this latest technology have it. But still, adoption, it has to be gone. So in the next 20, 25 years, this technology will be the major setting behind everything. That's what I believe in.
I agree.
Wow.
Like, earlier, businesses will be like, hey, why do I have to be on the internet? Internet or not? And right now, you would not find one business, even if it's a small like pawn shop that is not on the internet right now, Web2 right now, right? The same thing is going to happen with Web3, where enterprises are like, what's that? Businesses are like, why do I care about that? And then 10 years down the line, they're like, yo, like, how is it possible that you're still not there, right? Everyone is there. Like even a pawn shop guy has his own NFTs.
UPI. At the start of UPI, everyone was like, okay, now in every tea wala has a UPI to pay through. Every pani it has a UPI to pay through.
It's going to happen to crypto.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
You keep on saying there's some chai wala has started accepting crypto now.
That's really good. I think we might see a future MBA Chaiwala speaking on these topics also. So I definitely do see all that. I think that's a beautiful note to end on. A lot of positivity for the coming years for crypto and all of the people who are following our channel, who are going to follow AssetMantle's journey. Guys, everything is linked in the description. In the description box, make sure you guys reach out to them and also check what they're building on and the other things they have been doing in the past. Other than that, guys, thank you so much, Deepanshu and Abhinav, for joining us, for your time.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's been a very scintillating conversation. I really enjoyed my Friday night conversing with you guys. Thank you for having us.
That means a lot. Thank you, guys. And until next time, that's the Blockchain Voice podcast for you guys. Make sure to like, share, subscribe. Leave your comments in the comment section below and follow everybody's journey linked in the description. And until next time, tata, bye-bye, shabba khair.